Welcome, everyone. My name is Tom Burakowski. I'm here today doing demonstrations and sharing sonic techniques. All of the techniques that I'm sharing today, I've learned from Linda Sylvester, my wife. Linda is a sound therapist, and she is the founder of Sonic Reiki. The real beauty of what goes on in Linda's seminars or classes is that Linda's intent is to empower us. The whole intent is to teach us ways that we find our own self-empowerment. And one of the greatest things that we can do, and it's been the most significant thing in my life, is to learn my own truth. It's so important in this world that we live in today that we know this is our core, this is what is our truth. And there's so much being projected out there, either in the newsprint or in books or videos or TV, movies particularly. And what's the best thing that we can do for ourselves is access our own truth. So Linda has been teaching different techniques over the years, and it's wonderful to practice these techniques because the more you do it, the better you get at it. So the first thing is that why would you want to practice this technique? For instance, if I pick up a book that I'm drawn to in a bookstore, and I have to ask myself, is this book 100% true? And I'll tell you, when I'm holding that book, I go backwards that this book is not 100% true. Well, then, if it's not, then you could go through a series of questions. Linda teaches us to ask significant questions along the way. Is this book 100% true? No. Is it 95% true? No, not that either. Well, is it at least 90% true? Oh, the book is 90% true. So there's very little energy that has to go into discerning, is this garbage or is this truth? Remember, garbage in is garbage out. Now, the belief of doing this muscle testing is that within us, we hold all the truth that matters to us, and we're accessing our truth. And the real beauty, believe it or not, is that truth, our own truth, evolves. What was true for us, 10, 15 years ago, that was true, but we've upgraded and updated our truth. And so what a great tool to be able to access this divine truth. The first thing that we should do is determine our polarity. One of the ways to determine our polarity is to ask a question that you know certainly. Example, is my name Thomas? Well, the way I would do that is I would place my hands on my chest and I would say, is it 100% true that my first name is Thomas? Whoa, this is a nice demonstration because I felt the energy come up from my feet and push me forward. Now, I'm going to ask another question that I already know to be untrue, just to see my body give you an example of what is not true, okay? For example, is it 100% true that I was born in 1970? Whoa, not true, not true, not true. I was not born in 1970. So that would be an example of something that is not true. But what did we prove here? is that my polarity going forward is positive. That's my yes. And my polarity going backward, that would be my no. When you ask this question for yourself, the same questions, if you get that positive yes, well, then you know your polarity is correct. But if, for instance, when you asked your name and you got a no, that would mean that your polarity is off. Well, there's a couple different techniques for bringing your polarity back to you. Okay, one of the first things you can do is have a sip of water. Many of us have an imbalance in water, and if you drink some water, the water is going to bring your polarity back. That's one way. Another way is, you know how when they test your reflexes and there's this point just below your knee, you can tap on that reflex point 3 times, and that will reestablish your polarity. Go down to our knees, and the reflex point that you might see when they're testing your knees is you're going to tap your knees 3 times while you're toning the vowel sound of E. Example. E. If we do that, it should reestablish our polarity. It's absolutely essential that we know that our polarity is correct. There's a lot of different things in the world that can shift our polarity or affect us in a very strong way. A very loud noise, or, for example, a close call driving. Things can just set you off, and you need to reestablish yourself. I love doing my hands on my chest and muscle testing this way. It's very noticeable, and I feel it the most. But this isn't always convenient to do this out in the world. And when I tell you that we muscle test everything, every part of our life is muscle testing. And when we don't do it, we end up going to a movie that we shouldn't have been at, that it was not very beneficial to us. So here's an example of a technique that, if you're sitting in a restaurant, for instance, and you're wondering which menu item would be best for you at the time, your mind might tell you one thing, like, for example, green beans. Everyone seems to collectively accept that green beans are healthy for us. But what happens when you ask a question, are the green beans, is it the highest possible reality for me to have the green beans today? And you might get a no answer. The only way you're going to do that is that if you have a technique where you're not standing up in the restaurant, what you're doing is you're using another technique with your hands. I create a circuit with my thumb and my middle finger and create this circuit. Same thing with my left hand, but create a chain where they're together. And gently, I'm putting pressure on them. When my chain stays together and my fingers stay together, that's my yes. When they come apart, that's my no. Well, the more you practice this, the more subtle it can become. You can drop your hands down low, you can have them up high. No one needs to know that you're muscle testing every item on the menu. And back to the green beans, you'd think, green beans should be good for me, but I gotta know the green beans are no for today. What if the chef or the assistant chef was having money issues? Money is the color of green. And what if the chef projected those issues into those green beans, and those beans held the frequency because his issues with financial concerns were so great that they actually affected the vibration of the green beans. Well, muscle testing will allow you to do that. Here's another simple technique that takes a little more practice, but once you do this, it's even more subtle than this. I would say for me, I'm using the front and back and linking the fingers together. But then there's another technique where you're using your middle finger on your pointer finger and you're putting pressure on that finger, trying to push the pointer finger down. If the resistance stays and it's nice and strong when you put pressure with the top finger down, that's a yes. If it collapses, that's a no. Well, I use my hands a lot during the day at work, so this is a little too subtle for me. But if you're someone whose hands are relaxed and you can get used to this technique, this can be very, very helpful for you. Another technique which requires both hands is that you're connecting your pinky finger with the tips of your thumb. And with your pointer finger, what you're doing is putting a pressure to break through here. All right? If it stays, that's your yes. If it breaks, that's your no. Again, this technique and this technique are subtle and require practice, but it's a practice well worth doing. These are techniques, but people have many ways of accessing their own truth. Some people have a very powerful intuition, and when you rely on your intuition, that's paramount. You trust your intuition. Other people have little chills going up their spine or down their spine. Other people use a pendulum, for instance. I have never used a pendulum because I'm so convinced of these techniques. If a pendulum works for you, very, very powerful. The real beauty of all this muscle testing is that it does allow us to access our truth. Well, what's really important and very, very significant is that we formulate the question in an absolutely positive manner. If we use negatives, it's like, I'm not even going to use an example. The universe takes us literally, and then you're manifesting something, testing something that the universe, it confuses the universe. Always positive. Is it 100% true? Well, people many times feel, okay, is muscle testing an access to our future truth? Yes, it can be. But here's something to pay close attention to. Because we have divine free will, and what animates us is choice, if you muscle test something today to be true in the future, a moment later, you can actually change that truth because you make a choice that takes you in a different direction. It's your choice. You can do that. No need, be careful when we ask questions about the future. Here's something very beautiful to think about. Children can be taught to muscle test as early as 7 years old. At 7, they're grounding spirituality into them at 7. The spiritual energy is coming in and grounding. Well, imagine your life, or I would imagine my life. Would my life have been different if I could have accessed my truth because a very, very nurturing adult taught me what my own truth is? Many people are out there trying to tell you what truth is. A little boy knew it intuitively, or a little girl intuitively knows what is true. Well, what a great way to teach them a technique to confirm their truth. This is a real benefit of muscle testing. I just encourage all of us to try these different techniques. This is something that can dramatically affect our life, have a huge impact. Imagine living your life perfectly aligned to your truth because you took the time to discover your own truth. This is what Sonic Reiki is all about. This is what we're hoping to share with you. Thank you for watching. We look forward to showing you many more techniques, many more ways to enhance your life. Thank you.